भिडियो अन छ है त्यहाँ नत्र
Hello friends, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I want to thank everyone here for joining us today. I'm Pradip Pariyar from Nepal, and this is a caste conversation, a conversation to understand the caste dynamics that affect our society, our life, and our value system. Please accept my sincere gratitude for participating to the conversation. I'm equally thankful to our guest today, Professor Dr. Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd, for his time and support towards Dalit Life Matter Nepal. And now when we talk about caste, we all have our own personal experience. I truly believe that all of us who are present here have been affected one way or other, some good, some bad, but most part of it in ways beyond our imagination and expectation. Let me begin with Dalit Life Matter Nepal. Dalit Life Matter Nepal is a social movement to create a just society where every Nepali can enjoy life without the fear of being persecuted in the name of caste. It is an initiative to counter and fight back all form of caste-based discrimination and untouchability, a collective intervention to ensure every right of every single Nepalese citizen guaranteed in the Constitution of Nepal. Dalit Life Matter Nepal is a movement to make all Nepalese aware of the inequalities, discrimination, and atrocities based on the caste system, and that they should take action against such transgressions. Dalit Life Matter Nepal is a connection with the people to build a collective force and amplify people power to eradicate any inequality, discrimination, and violence based on the caste systems. 3 years ago in 2017, I was at Bangalore listening to Dr. Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd. It was a big hall and people from all walks of life were there, and it was a great privilege to listen to him. I was mesmerizing by his speech. Like many others that day, I wanted to talk to him. Sadly, I couldn't that time. Last year in September, we spent a week with Professor Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd at Unfinished Legacy of Dr. Ambedkar conference in New York. I have been his admirer since the very first time I saw him talk on Dalit issues. He's an inspiration for me and many others youth around the globe. Thank you very much, Professor Kancha Ilaiah. We are very thankful joining with us. In the same conference, he said something that has been pushing me to strive further and inspiring me to continue further in this journey. Thank you for that. He said, read, write, and fight. These exact 3 words. Thank you very much for your wisdom and inspiration, Professor Kancha Ilaiah. Now let me introduce you to our guest speaker for today, Professor Dr. Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd, well known. I don't need much more introduction here, but I'll just briefly introduce our professor. Professor Shepherd is well known as an Indian political theorist, writer, and activist for Dalit rights. Contributing to internationalizing Dalit Bahujan issues, he is one of the major figures in the ideological movement against the Indian caste system. Buffalo nationalism, God as a political philosopher, and post-Hinduism India are his published books. He was awarded the Mahatma Jyotir Phule Award in 2000 for his work. He also bagged Lisa Award for his magnum opus, Why I'm Not a Hindu book. Professor Shepherd has recently retired as a director of Center for the Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, Maulana Azad National University, Hyderabad. Maybe Professor Kancha Ilaiah retired, but not tired. He's speaking more than us. I think that. So thank you for joining us. Here is my first question for you. In this COVID pandemic in Nepal, Navraj Bike and his friends were killed. Angira Pasi was raped and murdered. Malar Sada stabbed to death. Sambhu Sada died in police custody. In India, Vikas Kumar Jatap was killed, all because they were Dalit. In the US, George Floyd was killed. He was black. Nobody knows when the racism and casteism ends. Black Lives Matter took onto the street of America, Europe, UK, and Canada. Likewise, Dalit Matter Nepal is gaining momentum in Nepal too. Recently, you published an article, Why Dalit Life Do Not Matter. Would you explain why? Why Dalit life do not matter? Floor is yours, Professor. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pradip, for this great opportunity to talk to friends across the world. And thanks to the organization that you have floated from Nepal called Dalit Lives Matter. Now, as you know that we are meeting here at a time when there is almost a kind of revolution in the Western world to change fundamentally the race relationships in the West and also in the world in a larger sense. Now, after George Floyd was crushed under the knee of one of the white police officers and he was killed, there was an outburst in US to start with, but this movement has now become almost a revolution. You all remember in 2010 and 11, there was this Arab Spring for changing situation, changing relations and political systems in Arab world. Massive number of people came out into streets and then they pulled down several governments. Today in America, Europe, even in many parts of Asian world, this Black Lives Matters issue has shaken up. Statues are being pulled down. History is being rewritten. And how does this affect all of us in South Asia who were living in the caste system? And the caste system which really destroyed human life much more than what white racism has done to the blacks. Now the question of Dalits, who remained untouchable for almost 3,000 years, much before Gautam Buddha started his Sangha system and rationalist philosophical discourses, caste and untouchability existed in India. Since then, in spite of the fact that a country like India, which is 72 years of democracy with the constitutional rights and certain laws in place to fight untouchable issues, even a country like Nepal, after its recent changes, democracy being established in Nepal and in Sri Lanka, in some of, even in the Muslim countries, caste and untouchability is a problem. Now, when this is happening, lot of Indians, I hope some of the Nepali intellectuals are also involved in US, UK, and in some of other European countries in support of the Black Lives Matters movement. And most of these people come from the Brahmin, the Banya community, Kshatriyas, some of them, and some of them are Kayasthas and Khatris. These are 5 major Dvija ruling castes in India. More or less similar communities could be there in Nepal and in other parts. Now, while this is happening in the world, one Dalit young boy in UP attempted to enter into a temple to pray whatever deity he wanted to see in the temple. I think it was a Shiva temple, but he was shot dead. And that did not become a big news. For going to a temple, and at a time when the right-wing Hindu political party is in rule, which is defining Dalits, Shudras, Adivasis, and so on as Hindus. What surprised me was that the media did not make it the front page news. But in America, in Europe, a talk on black after Martin Luther King's movement does not remain a small news. It becomes the front page headline as a natural course. Now, why is it that this Dalits, whether in India or in Nepal, still suffer untouchability and suffer equal brutalities that the blacks across the world are suffering? Yet, a major movement to shake the whole caste system does not take place. Now, why? Why this happened? That was the question bothering me for quite some time. Now, one of the issues that struck me as recently I was working on a book on Shudras. Unlike the race question, the caste question is different. Whites and blacks are two blocks, and once a black is attacked, all blacks identify with the white, and then they come out and they fight. Of course, they suffered slavery for a long time, but in spiritual domain, they have established themselves. They have their separate churches. They have their church leaders. Martin Luther himself emerged from church background as a pastor. And right from Frederick Douglass, when the Civil War was taking place in America at the time of Abraham Lincoln, the blacks began to mobilize within their own churches. From there, they produced singers, they produced intellectuals, they produced women of high quality. And as of now, when the movement is engulfing the world, they have a black president in their list of America, and who has established credibility for himself, a black woman as the first lady, and so on and so forth. Now, why Dalit lives are not the same kind of lives in India or Nepal or any other country? Here comes the question of the Shudra position, because I come from the Shudra background. Unlike the black-white two block categories and ideological debates and fights, the caste system is a layered one. Ambedkar has already elaborately analyzed how it is graded inequality question. But I'm now trying to tackle the question of Shudra inequality within the Hindu system. And if the Shudra inequality is not seen by Shudras, the Dalit movement cannot reach a stage of the black movement in the West. Because the Shudras in India constitute about 56% population. There are regional political party leaders, there are regional parties as well, but they do not match the Brahmins and Banyas in capital, the Brahmins and Banyas in intellectual resource, and the Brahmins and Banyas in global reach and in media. Yet they don't cite the Dalit struggle, the Dalit issue, and they stand by the Brahmin. I found the Shudra mind, which I thought was not very Hinduized when I was writing Why I'm Not a Hindu in 1992 to 1995, and it was published in 96. There is a chapter in that book. Those of you who read that chapter, but that book must you collect back, called the Neo-Kshatriyas. So I characterize the Shudra upper layer, which is not within the reservation category, as Neo-Kshatriya category. But this category did not seem to be really that capable after the BJP came to power. And they have no place in temple. They cannot become the priest, and they have no organization of themselves in the temple system, nor they think of their own religious practices. But I found that they almost believe Brahman as God. Now, whatever Brahman tells them is the God's word. So the Brahman tells them that here is a Dalit, you should not allow him into the temple. Here is a Dalit woman, she can be used the way they want. Earlier, Devdasi was the model. So the Shudras were following them in spite of the fact they had no equality in the spiritual realm, in the business realm, in the political realm, in the intellectual realm. And there is no realization. So Ambedkar thought that Dalit liberation, annihilation of caste would happen if the Dalits fight the battle, perhaps as the blacks today are fighting. But I realized that no, Dalits also cannot fight this battle beyond a point, because the majority are with the Brahmin. So how to disassociate the Shudras from the Brahminic force? This is the critical question in caste system. Because historically, I don't know, even in Nepal, you must be reading the same Vedic texts, the same Ramayana, Mahabharata as the ancient literature. The category of Mlecha and Dalit is a much later category. It was not a Vedic category, nor Ramayana category, nor Mahabharata category. The slaves were the Shudras. Like the slaves, the blacks were the slaves in the modern period. The Shudras were the slaves of the Brahmin Banya for a longer time, but there is no realization of that slavery. And even now their status is not good. There is in JNU, in Delhi University, in any one of the IIT, IIM, that Indian universities or best institute that they send people to America, Europe, Shudras are absolutely invisible. And their intellectual ability is much less today, if I make a comparison, than that of the Dalit intellectual group ability. Even then, there is no realization. Therefore, I thought, if we need to start a movement, for example, now we have started a campaign that there is a Manu statue in Rajasthan High Court, and we all signed a petition to Sonia Gandhi and the Chief Minister of Rajasthan, who is a congressman, that that statue should be removed, because it cannot stand in a country where Ambedkar categorically, he burned his books. But I'm not for burning of the books, but completely putting their history in the museum. So there was a movement against that statue. 2 Dalit women went there and blackened that face of Manu, but they were arrested, cases are there. So the movement is starting, but if only Dalits continue that movement, and if the Shudra OBCs stand by the Manwadis, the movement will not go anywhere. So if we want to make the Dalit lives should matter movement as the Black Lives Matter movement, mobilizing forces in the streets requires first intellectual galvanization. Look at the Black writings. Look at the articles that Blacks are writing after this movement started. Look at the interviews that Black men and women are giving. Even CNN, the main anchors have now gone into the anchoring has gone into the Black women and men. You just see that Don Lemon, who anchors CNN every day, or any Black woman, that international interviewer of Black women. Now, it is not Dalits who are not just absent. There is no Shudra of that stature in Indian TV channels or newspapers. So in such a situation also, if the Shudras have not realized their history, now one of the major problems of all of us intellectuals who want to work around Black Lives Matter, to make Black Lives Matter, should also educate the Shudras that first the Shudra spiritual life, social life should become equal. And now what kind of spiritual position they take? Because Christianity was a different religion in the West. The text was different, where the text gave a theoretical scope that all human beings were created by God equal. All of you must realize that the French Revolution was started with this idea of God creating all human beings equal. And American War of Independence started with the idea of God creating all human beings equal. And Jefferson himself realized that slavery must go because we proclaimed that God created all human beings equal in the Independence Declaration. Now therefrom, even the whites started taking a stand. I just wrote an article, it will appear soon, that the Brahmin intellectuals, the Banya intellectuals who are in the West, who are carrying the Black Lives Matter placards in Europe and America, do not say a single word here that caste system should be abolished in India. They don't ask Narendra Modi government that why not you bring a abolition of caste law. Caste is not abolished in India. I don't know it is legally abolished in Nepal. What is done in the constitution is recognition of untouchability and giving economic benefits with reservations and creating a law for checkmating the atrocities. It is not abolition of caste, nor even abolition of untouchability, because caste and untouchability are interrelated. They are significantly related to the question of religion, spiritual equality in the domain of God. Now, Dalit writers do not raise this question. Now, Ambedkar thought Dalits would become hugely Buddhist, and there will be an alternate Buddhist religion with the Dalit control, Dalit philosophy, Dalit Buddhism as what he called Navayana. More of them in the South have gone into Christianity, but they have not shaken the ideology of caste, and they have not taken up the religious spiritual equality question. Now that is where I have been struggling to write ever since I wrote Why I'm Not a Hindu, and then Post-Hindu India and Buffalo Nationalism and so on, to categorically educate even the Shudras who do not come into the intellectual discourse on these issues, that you have to come into this, you have to get into. Lastly, I think whether it is Nepal or India, unless the Dalit Shudra masses are pushed into a uniform national English medium education for all children, Dalits, Adivas in the tribal areas, because both the systems adopted duplicity of education, private sector English medium and public sector regional languages. This is nonsense. If there was no English education among the blacks of America, Britain and South Africa and some of the former British colonies, imagine the black intellectual. It would not have been anywhere near. There were some intellectuals who created some literature having come from the French colony background. But that is a very, very limited thing. Once English came to South Africa and America and England, blacks, they produced intellectuals who can govern, who can become scientists, who can become social scientists, and that is lacking both among Shudras and Dalits. So my campaign for English education for all is not owned by Dalits, not owned by Shudras. It is one man shouting, and I'm not depressed. I'm not bothered with who is coming now. But the question is that unless you create intellectuals who understand a global scientific language and write in that language, speak in that language, Shudras and Dalits, women across the board, Dalit lives matter slogan will not catch. And it has to enter into the spiritual domain because that is the key. The God is still controlling human mind more than the state. All of intellectuals are trying to address only the state issue. When I say read, write, and fight, you have to read spiritual scriptures of all religions. Write new scriptures if required, and fight like the blacks on the streets in order to change. But that should become, given the caste system as majority oppressed Shudras and Dalits, then I think Dalits' lives will matter much more than black lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. I have a follow-up question for that. During the Black Lives Matter movement, after the death of George Floyd, the Supreme Court judge who are still in service wrote a letter. You mentioned that in your article also. What are the few important factors that enable Black Lives Matter gain unprecedented global attention this time? What can Dalit or non-Dalit interested in reclaiming humanity learn from the Black Lives Matter movement? Can you share some of the things what we can learn from the Black Lives Matter movement?
Well, see, you have to understand the Supreme Court judges said that we cannot sit silent from our courtrooms. When a major struggle is going on, we should be concerned with the black lives. Now, they are all white. And a lot of whites are taking the side of blacks. And this whites taking the side of blacks is not just now. Ever since Uncle Tom's book was written by the first white lady, Breach, I don't remember her full name. Since then, white women took interest in liberation of black women first and later men. I don't know, in Nepal history, you should tell me, any Brahmin has written a book or an article taking the complete side of Dalits. Any judge or any literary writer or any novelist. In India, we have no example. And Indian Brahmins are hundreds in numbers and thousands in number in terms of intellectuals. So judges are not going to take that stand in India. And Supreme Court, High Courts, they dominate, and they will not say publicly that we must take side of the exploited, oppressed people like Dalits. Now that is the concern. And we should make a movement such that, the people sitting there, even before the numbers are changed, they should realize that we should speak for them, otherwise we will not survive. Why American whites are speaking in favor of blacks, even the British whites are speaking, they have realized that if they don't speak, their systems will be in crisis. Their life will be in crisis. So that kind of a situation is not coming here. The legal pundits, most of them educated abroad, come back and behave like in the same Brahminic order. That's the problem.
Okay, thank you so much. Dear friends, due to time limitation, we can only take few questions. If you have any, please post in our chat box, where we have a few questions already here. So my colleagues gathered this. One of the question is, in your write-up, Dalit life do not matter, you have said that the Brahmin god is fully in control of Sudra mind and muscle power. When
Yes.
Sudra do not have the spiritual enlightenment, which is precondition for change in social relation, Dalit life continue to be in danger. How can Sudra begin their work for the spiritual awakening?
Well, the spiritual rights question involves that if you believe, if a community or an individual believes that is part of a religion, then they should have the right to become the priest, or if it is Christianity, the pastor, if it is Islam, the mullah, if it is Buddhism, the monk and the leader in the temple and institution. Right now, the Shudras don't have that, even though they think that they are Hindus. And RSS, BJP define them as Hindus. So my question to them is that if you don't have equal rights in the same spiritual system where you are defined as part, then you are not a member. Even you don't have the right to go to the heaven in that system. Then either you have to think about alternative, or you should fight for equality there, because your heaven is also being controlled by Brahman. So the Brahman who is stopping you from becoming priest is also stopping you in entering into heaven, where he is there. He thinks that he is there. So the question therefore is, this religion issue has to be debated at length in India. We have not begun. Ambedkar argued in certain areas, but he chose Buddhism, and the Dalit intellectuals in India think that, okay, ours is Buddhism, ours is not Hinduism. Therefore, we don't bother. Now, my question is, if you don't bother about others assuming that they are in other religion, then you don't liberate. You have to bother about it. Secondly, spiritual extends to social. Social extends to political. Political extends to capital. We have seen in our recent study, all Shudras put together are only controlling 3.8% of Indian capitalist economy. 3.8%. Brahmins and Banyas are controlling 46% of capitalist economy. Brahmins are controlling 42%. That is only 3%. Now, see, there is a link between spiritual control, social control, political control, and market control and capital control. Therefore, they should understand this. And the question of depending on reservation is not going to help. Reservation, in my view, is going to die down very soon. The BJP government has already taken a position of privatizing everything in the pandemic time. 20 lakh crore rupees that they gave as a stimulation money is meant to privatize everything. So reservation is not going to survive. Therefore, more fundamental questions have to be raised. That is what the issue is.
Yeah, we have also a follow-up question on reservation. We have one question. There's a few questions, but I will read one. Providing quotas for Dalit in a way reinforce the recognition of caste. However, without such quotas, the Dalit wouldn't be in good position to access the education and other necessary services. How do we draw a silver line in terms of just governance? So there is a lot of questions while we are talking about Dalit. There is always questions coming about the reservation. Can you draw the silver line?
The whole question of reservation, I've been arguing for quite some time. On their own, for example, a government like BJP and RSS have been opposing reservations on various counts. But reservation has created a small number of intellectuals from among Dalits, and now here and there I could see a handful of OBCs here and there. But that is, and also a small middle class which is around the urban areas through reservation. But reservation also created a subordinating structural life, because every reserved person thinks that he should survive in the position. Therefore, my solution to ultimate issue is equal English medium government institutional education from LKG to 12th. Because one language for one nation, even to the globe, is going to resolve many problems. And from LKG to 12th, if we demand English medium education in government schools, which we have been fighting, and one of the state governments, the Andhra Pradesh government, has taken the position, and they are now, from this academic year, giving English medium in all government schools, from LKG to 10th now to start with. Now, educational equality will create millions of fighting forces, both intellectually and physically. See, unless an enslaved mind is liberated at the mass level through the school education agenda, mere selection of a group of people from those educated, semi-educated people and giving them reservations is not going to abolish caste. Caste is a larger institutional question, and the race struggle has proved that almost every black child is now going to English medium school in America. And they are also now trying to strengthen the private sector English education and the government sector English education. They are trying to weaken, but the fight will have to take in multidimensional ways. My solution to this problem is mass, one language, and now English education for all children for 6 to 7 generations to go. Now, 3,000 years of oppression, practice of untouchability, mental slavery will not be rubbed off with one generation or with one reserved position. I have seen academics, I have seen students. You ask them to write independent of their institutional base, they are dead scared. They want a degree. They want the supervisor's approval, who is a Brahmin guy there. So when I wrote my PhD on Gautama Buddha's political philosophy, they refused to accept my thesis. And since I was in a regional university, we were fighting on many fronts, I could push it and get my degree. And the book is there in publication, All God as Political Philosophy. That was my PhD thesis. So when I wrote, why I'm not a Hindu, publishers rejected to publish. Post to Hindu India, by then I became a recognized scholar. Now during the BJP rule, every Dalit scholar, every OBC scholar is dead scared of writing an independent piece. So this situation has to change at the mass level from the school education onwards.
Okay.
So that is my solution.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Professor. We have many questions actually. I'll pick one. Professor David Kellner asks, how useful is the work of Jyotirao Phule in building Sudra Dalit unity?
Well, Jyotirao Phule formulated the first concept of Shudras being slaves. Because earlier to Jyotirao Phule, there was no Shudra intellectual who told them that though you are an agrarian farmer, your killing ability, your producing ability, when it is de-recognized by the Brahmin intellectuality, the Shudra never realized that they are the producer, they have the science with them, they have the technology with them. The Brahmin has no knowledge of production, yet they thought that he is divine. So by calling Shudras Shudra and by calling Dalits Ati Shudra, Mahatma Phule tried to create a linguistic unifiable base. And Ambedkar came and continued that in the early phase by writing who are the Shudras. And then later on he shifted to a whole question of major problem for his life, untouchability issue. And gradually, because of number of other leaders like Sardar Patel and so many Shudra leaders who were working with Gandhi without being intellectuals, sided with the Brahmanism. Therefore, the Phule agenda was not carried to the logical end of ideological position. I think now there is an attempt, but even then it is a very less known attempt, and Phule himself is now being studied slowly, but we hope over a period of time he gets more recognition among the intellectual domain of the India. So take for example, he was the first man to compare Shudras with Negroes. He didn't compare Dalits or Ati Shudras with Negroes. He compared Shudras, the 56%, the tilling community, with the Negroes as slaves, and he called them Ghulam. I think that was the revolutionary conception, but it needs to be taken to the logical end with mass research, writing, ideologically, politically, novels. So many things need to be done.
So much. Thank you so much, Professor. We have many questions actually. There's one more question about how is the non-Dalit writing or discoursing about Dalit issues going to change the caste-based discrimination? In Nepal, non-Dalit have write about Dalit issues, but no bringing about desired change. What's your thought on this?
See, the non-Dalits, for example, in India have been entering into writing about Dalits. But generally what happens, that writing happens to be a kind of appeasing writing. That look, changes are happening. We are recognizing you. And we are cooperating with you. Don't be in a hurry. You know, there is a famous speech of Martin Luther 3 days before he died. He was shot dead in Washington Church. He tells the audience, look, lot of my friends keep telling, you know, you are going against the time. The time is very important. you wait for some time, gradually this issue will be resolved by time. Now, what Martin Luther King says is, time on its own will never resolve slave question and untouchable question. Similarly, the non-Dalit writers, more of Brahmins from the West, those non-resident Indians, we have seen in New York, a lot of people came and then they were sympathizing with the Dalits, but there was hardly any Shudra, OBC there except me. There was one girl called Bindu there, and she is in touch with me. So the problem is, now that is one of the reasons why some of the Dalit scholars were thinking that it is better to align with the Brahmin intellectuals who are cooperating with us than the Shudra OBCs who are oppressing in the agrarian sector and performers of the atrocities. Now, atrocities do happen because of the caste system and because of the Shudra OBC non-realization of their self in the agrarian conflict, because they are together there. They are in the same field. My view is, let them write. They should write more and more. We should not stop anybody writing, but unless the organic intellectual forces, more from the Shudras and Dalits, come to a concrete understanding of tackling caste as an institution, religion as an institution, the concept of God as a structural philosophical concept, and the question of women, which is central question to Mahatma Phule, Ambedkar, and all of us now, need to be tackled from that point of view. There are less and less Shudra writers. Now there are more and more Brahmins who are trying to, now publishing agencies are slightly coming forward and trying to put some Dalit literature. But where is the Shudra literature? There is a book on Shudras now. After Ambedkar, who were the Shudras, there is no book on Shudras in India.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor. There's other questions about the religion and caste. There's always, when we talk about Dalit, there's always issues about religion. Would you, moving away from religion and bringing out more research and material on Dalit being the oppressed group slaves, perhaps create a common ground of unity? Can we see caste system more as economic and political issues and distance it from religion? That's one question. And following up that, what is the experience about and change the religion is the best option against the discrimination or not? Can you, I merged two questions together.
No, see, there is a fundamental mistake there. Caste as an institution was a creation of Brahmanism as a religion. First, caste structure was constructed in the domain of Vedic religion. Now, in the pre-Vedic period, there was Harappa society. Harappa society was agrarian Shudra society, and it was agricultural, village economy was there, and then urban city system was built by the Shudras before the Aryan migration took place. So how can you solve a system which was created by religion and with the notion of God without tackling that problem? Because generally what Brahminic people tell us is, no, this is a social problem. And we can tackle this politically because social problem can be handled through constitutional means. No, this is wrong. This is what exactly people, there are two intellectuals in India who write, who are known also. One is Ramchandra Guha. He's a historian. And there is another one called Gupta, who was a JNU professor. They were against us taking our system to United Nations. And they went to UN and then talked again as no, caste is just Indian, and then we are having all kinds of mechanisms, tools to handle this. Deepankar Gupta. So we said no, this is a global issue. UN has to intervene into this, like race. But they think that race is a global issue, race is a spiritual issue, race is therefore a social issue and a political issue, but not caste. No, my view is, unless you understand Hinduism from its all points of view and the Vedic literature, Kautilya, Manu, Ramayana, Mahabharata, you can't dismantle caste from Indian soil. I don't know in Nepal which texts are the source of. I think that the same texts must have been popular in Nepal based on the Vedic, what RSS calls Akhanda Bharat situation. But no, Vedic, Ramayanic, Mahabharata and the Upanishadic up to Kautilya and Manu, all texts were anti-production, anti-agrarianism. So the pre-Vedic agriculturalism was destroyed and pastoralism was introduced, which was a backward system. China had philosophy of agriculturalism from 7th century BC to 1st century AD in a very strong position. Therefore, their agrarian economy, rationalism, and Confucianism and Buddhism got conglomerated into what the modern China is. They destroyed agriculturalism in India, which is the basic production philosophical center. Europe borrowed that philosophy from China, but we destroyed it in India. So that is the reason why our production levels are very weak. And our ethic of dignity of labor is absolutely zero. And unless you understand Hinduism, how it is anti-dignity of labor, how do you resolve this problem? Shoemaking is bad, pollution. Pot making is pollution, tilling the land is pollution, cattle rearing is pollution. Where did the language come from? It is religion. See, if we don't understand one fundamental principle, the notion of philosophy became central to the human being only after religions were established. Before that, philosophy was very weak in spite of Plato and Aristotle. So therefore, we need to tackle it.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor. We have a few more questions. We have seen the movement evolve through the push on temple, water tank, commonality, education, economic and political access, and so on. However, change still seems to be far cry. In your opinion, what is the catalyst of real change?
No, we have been fighting on day-to-day life front at individual level. Many Dalits sacrifice their life just to enter the temple individually. Many Dalits were killed just going to the tank to get some water. So there were also collective movements. Many Shudras were also killed for asking for the sacred thread. So movements were there all over the history in South Asia to fight against the caste system, but yet the system remained. But these movements earlier to the 20th century and the 21st century were unorganized, based on low level of intellectual understanding, no literary base, no textual base, no communication and media. Now we have entered into a different phase. Luckily, the social media, the internet, and the popular media websites give us scope to write more, speak more, communicate more among ourselves. Now the Black Lives Matters movement is because of social media. We know that. But much more the fundamental social media movement, mass movement created after the internet became popular was the Arab Spring in a very, very dumb society. Islamic system is a very, very oppressive system. Even there it created. So the changes are happening, but not to match the global changes that we are seeing. That is where the blacks set an example to us, though we are fighting for longer time in our lifetime, in our history.
Yeah, thank you so much. A little bit different questions here. So why feminism is kind of failed in fighting Brahminical patriarchy in India and Nepal, and maybe we can call in South Asia? How do you see the future of the equality movement? It's a combined movement.
No, that is feminism, you mean?
Yeah, feminism.
Yeah. See, the question of feminism we need to address as part of larger transformation and with a specific focus by developing hundreds of women thinkers and writers and musicians, painters, multiple workers and so on. The Dalit movement, or what we call the Shudra Dalit OBC movement, has to a largest extent from Mahatma Phule onwards combined feminist dimension within itself. That is the reason why we say Savitri Bai became the first woman, modern educated woman who became the teacher, and her husband was equal with her, and she was given equal status with Mahatma Phule at that time. Even much more than what the nationalist leaders later on did. I hope in Nepal also a lot of women activism is taking place. We have to categorically distinguish between the Shudra, Dalit, Bahujan working, Dalit Bahujan, what I call democratic patriarchal relations. Our women, our men work openly in the field. There is no burqa system. There is no, food discrimination at home. But white beating, women inequality within the house, not equal access to women, all these things are there. So, whereas in the Brahmanism, there was sati, there was child marriage, there was no educational rights. Now the Brahmins have overtaken all of us because we were not English educated, we were not modernized along with them. They have their own women liberators and so on. So what the Dalit Bahujan movement has to do is put a lot of people, women and men, into engaging with women's question as part of the Dalit Bahujan movement right now. But this has to be related to production. Our strength lies in claiming the production knowledge, where the Brahmin strength, weakness lies in opposing the production language. Therefore, women's movement should not go around their own agendas set by the Brahminic feminists, but get into the production level and see where we have strength. We have number of goddesses whose husbands are not there, who were doctors, engineers, who built systems and yet became goddesses. If you see, why I'm not a Hindu, Pochamma, Katamaisamma, from the days of Harappan civilization, we have women figures. So we need to reclaim our history independent of the Brahminic history and their texts. They will write about Sita, Savitri, Draupadi, Let them write about that. We are not bothered. I think we should locate our strength and see our weakness from the women's point of view.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just follow up questions, especially for collaboration issues. In South Asia, if South Asia is about systematic oppression and graded inequality, where people are impure and pure based on caste system, why would Shudra and other marginalized group in Nepal, Adivasi and Janjati we call, what is the collaboration? That's the collaboration is not happening. There should be a collaboration or not. What's your thought on this?
Well, the collaboration has to be at 3-4 levels. One, what movements are happening, what consciousness is being built up in each country, in each society. We need to share our information between activists, between movements, organizations, and so on. Secondly, unless we build intellectual resource in each country, unless we work out massive writing of experiences and theories based on experiences, we don't understand and we don't share our resources. After all, knowledge sharing is a very, very significant. And unless there are intellectuals in those areas, and now English has become our tool of collaboration, and this is good. The Brahmin intellectuals on the one side abuse English as a colonial language, and they learn only English. And they're very clever. They abuse Macaulay, and they go to England and study only in English. So we should understand their diabolism, and I think we all should collectively take up a campaign for English medium education in all countries of South Asia, which were the colonies of Britain. And we must take a position which is different from the Brahmin intellectuals. Instead of all the time talking colonialism and all that thing, we should celebrate every 5th October as Indian English Day, Nepal English Day, and English should be taken into every house and child. And we should share how this is happening. And right now, when there are no government schools with English medium, how many of our families can send to private English medium schools and see that the children learn qualitative education and become intellectuals? Unless we train thousands, hundreds do not become intellectuals. That's
Maybe I can make follow-up questions on this. What do you have to say about the modern school and its role on social reproduction of Dalit and non-Dalits?
See, the school syllabus is anti-Dalit, anti-Shudra, absence or anti. But unless we write a lot of material for replacing the syllabus, the enemy is not going to listen to us. See, before there was Ambedkar literature, even in degree syllabus, post-graduation syllabus, they were not carrying Pule, they were not carrying. And when the modern writings came, for example, my books, they came and got into universities, students demanded, and last year Delhi University wanted to ban all my 4 books. Students fought back. So unless we write a lot of material on our people's strength in production, dignity of labor, and their culture, for example, food culture. Brahmanism spreads about vegetarianism, yoga as international. And we have been asking, with vegetarianism, can you fight China? China is going to wage war with us now. So can you fight with yoga, China? China will come with karate. You will sit on yoga. So they will attack us. Then what is the alternative? We were saying the rural Dalit Shudra exercise, tilling the land, running, high jump. These are the models for muscle building. All food culture, including beef. People have to eat in order to defeat China if they are coming to war on us or any other country. So the BJP people did not understand that. Now they are understanding. China is coming to our borders now. It is occupied. So therefore, the Brahminism is such a school, it self-destroys. Whether it is Nepal or India, so we need to produce counter literature. I don't know how many of our participants saw my book called Teaching Dignity of Labor, which was published by Navayana with graphics, with illustrations. We must produce hundreds of small booklets, books, poems for putting in the syllabus at school education level, college education level, university education level, and demand for its inclusion as a movement, as larger people's movement. Unless we do that, how do we change this, the consciousness of our own people? Pot making, barbering, tilling the land, shepherding. See, our names, they indignify. So we need to educate our people how our culture is superior to them. Then, that will become part of the syllabus.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much, our friends, especially dear all friends. Sincere apology for the inconvenience causes in chat box, so we couldn't take any more questions. Sorry for that, but everything is going well. Thank you, my team. I have a last questions for you, Professor. This you can take 10 minutes for this. This is maybe you can elaborate some of your experience as well, working with the young people and teaching with the young people, teaching young people. What are actionable political steps young citizens can take to help Dalit life actually matter? Can I repeat again, or?
No. I broadly understood, though there was some break. Now the question is, Dalit lives matter. We must make their lives matter first to themselves. And this is where our schools, colleges, our teachers, our university professors, and as we have seen in the New York training camp, the young students, research scholars who came there was excellent potential among them. Now, what we need to do is to galvanize their potential for rethinking on many issues that they earlier thought were right. Their own reading of Ambedkar, their own reading of Dalit literature, their own reading of the Brahminic literature has to be shared by the larger South Asian groups, both in the mostly in Western countries these people meet, and more and more of our people should be sent to Western world-class social science and arts courses. And unless a lot of novels are written on untouchability and caste and Dalit lives, how do they matter, Western world is not going to realize our problem. Today, world is globalized, and the blacks are benefiting from the globalized campaigns and even with the South Asian support. Chinese are supporting, Indians are supporting them, and Pakistanis are supporting, several people are supporting, the whole of Asia is supporting. Similarly, we need to get the support of the West. And we need to put caste and untouchability question more strong in United Nations, and that will become more and more possible through highly nuanced writings, on all kinds of varieties of issues, linking to the modern development. But take, for example, the question of dignity of labor. Dignity of labor is important in computers as much as it is important in tilling the land, in making the pot, in making the shoes and so on. So you need to connect those linkages. So what is physical work? What is mental work? We need to teach our students. Those of you who have not seen my autobiography, which is a Shepherd family-based autobiography, and how our students suffer inferiority complexes and the man-woman relations problems within the school, within the colleges and universities, how to overcome them. I have shown through my own experience what problems would arise. A lot of our young students are committing suicide with marriage problem, with English problem in IITs, in best educational institutions. They go abroad, cannot cope up with that, and then either drop out or become depressed. I think reading autobiographies and writing autobiographies is a very critical thing to share our experiences, which we did not do at a different level of intellectual autobiography. See, this story narrative of suffering, the pain, the weeping is one type. Telling our strength, showing our energy to the enemy as an intellectual is another mode of autobiography. If you read Dalit autobiographies, OBCs, Shudras have not written autobiographies at all. No, they don't think that they can write also. That's the problem. So there's our Sardar Patel was Deputy Prime Minister, never wrote anything. He was a Shudra. And he was helping Gandhi for writing everything, Nehru for writing everything. He was taking books and handing over them. But he was not reading because he thought that Shudra should not read. So this Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, our present Prime Minister is an OBC, a Baniya, but does not read much. So there is no books. I'm happy, Pradip, you have a lot of books behind you. So generally people don't keep books. And so my feeling is, let young students write their autobiographies even at that stage, experiences at that stage. Share your experiences of strength, not only weakness. All the time, if you go on crying about our problems, we cannot produce intellectuals. We have to tell about our strength, our merit, our capability, our nation building ability, our production ability, and how we are central to the nations. You write about the skills and the greatness of shoemaking, how your father made it, how your mother makes a lot of things which a Brahmin woman does not know. That is Dalit feminism. Dalit feminism does not mean all the time you read what they write and you also read the same Ramayana and Mahabharata and tell something about from your point of view. Your mother's strength is your Dalit feminism. You write about it. And how your mother fought your father, you write about it. There are many mothers who bet fathers. And you write about it. So it's only telling that all the time, all Dalit men beat Dalit women, how is that equality? But there are Dalit women, there are more widows among Dalits who manage families better than men. You look at your families. And I look at my families. A lot of widows did that great struggle. So therefore, Dalit feminism, Dalit writing, Dalit women matter must be taught to the world through their merit and productive life and nation building in their village. Our nations are living in the village, not in the cities. But you have to write a text about it. If you do that, I think a day will come, Shudras will realize. I'm telling all Shudras, what are you doing when Dalits are writing? Are you sleeping? You want to live? You want to worship Brahman and live like that? How long you will worship Brahman anyway? That Brahman Sanskrit mantra you can't understand. You don't know what he is telling God. You know that he is telling God, don't allow the Shudra to come to heaven. He is telling God. But you don't understand. So you have to talk to God in English, then God will understand. If that God does not understand English, replace the God. We can replace God. So we will have to speak to God who understands English and then make that God universal also in your country, in my country. Why should we listen to them? So anyway, thank you, Pradip, for this.
Yeah,
great,
thank you. Just 5 more minutes, Professor. I'll wrap up. Before wrapping, I have a last final question, so you can take few minutes and then we'll wrap up. So
Okay.
what can be the first step that the general people can take action for general people? Do you have any suggestion for that, for general people?
See, there's nothing like first step, second step. I mean, now we are in a lifetime battle. We are in a battle individually, collectively, and we are in a battle because the Dalit problem, still untouchability, is a huge problem, right? Even in Nepal. And in spite of the Communist Party, the Communist Brahmins do not recognize caste as a problem. Indian Communist Brahmins did not recognize. So we are already in battles. Once we are conscious, our battle began. Our children, if they become conscious of themselves, the battle begins in the school. Our children, youth in the colleges, the battle begins in the college. And then at a different level in the university. We are all in the battleground. But how do you expand the battleground from school, college, to your room, to your computer, to the street, to the nation, is a question. But most of our people are in the villages, in the forest zones. Urban people are very less, and those who are there are only, the sweepers. There are soldiers. In Corona, it is the sweeping soldiers who saved the nation, a big country like India, but they don't recognize. So therefore, my feeling is all of us who have English pen in our hands, we must strengthen that English pen. And English pen is important because English pen, if you use, it communicates to black. It communicates to white. It communicates to the people who are on the other side of the globe, who think like us about inequality, oppression, superstition, and so on. But it will not communicate to a Brahmin nearby because they don't want to read our stuff. Even if they read, they think that, I see a lot of people writing about my books. How can a person write like a book like this? Why am I not a Hindu? What happened to him? He's a professor. And then they say that, what is this binary view? What is this Buffalo Nation? How can he respect black color like that? But these fellows will go to America, say, black is beautiful. Because their children need to study in Harvard. And they need to take black people's support there. Okay, these fellows' color is also either brown or black. Now, this hypocrisy of Brahmanism, which does not have sense of shame and sense of guilt, is a big problem of intellectuality. The whites have sense of shame and sense of guilt because that came to them from Bible. That came to them from Jesus. And therefore, they tell the sense of shame and guilt. That's what the Supreme Court judges are saying. We are ashamed of it. No Brahmin will say we are ashamed of caste system. So the question therefore is, we need to tell our story, the story of our strength repeatedly, again and again. Go on saying, buffalo is our goddess. She gives white milk. You should not drink that milk. You should not drink our buffalo milk. You drink only your cow milk or its urine. You eat its dung. That is very good for you. Then fight China. So therefore, we have to, when I was fighting on beef food lonely, no Dalit scholar wrote with me accepting my beef position.
Okay,
So
Professor.
we need to fight it. I'm an OBC. I'm a Shudra. In my house, they did not eat beef, but I used to tell them, my brain is working because I ate a lot of goat brains.
Okay.
So there is no much difference between goat brain and buffalo brain. So they don't understand the role of goat. Therefore, my point is, you have to write without any inhibition in yourself. Speak without any inhibition in yourself. And let us build a global intellectual team. Now, thanks to Corona, it cut all the traveling. Good. We don't have money, we can't travel. But we can meet on Zoom now. Every time, let us meet on Zoom every week, and we will Zoom them.
Okay, but Professor, we want to bring you in Nepal also someday.
No, after coronas, after vaccine, either you develop an vaccine, use a Western. India cannot develop. I know they are saying we'll develop, and they are drinking cow urine and dying. So
okay,
Dalit
Professor.
or Dalit intellectual doctor has to come build a vaccine.
Sure.
You know, I'll tell you last. One of my close friends wrote an article, a research paper from Usmania itself. His name is Ram Shepherd. He said, you know, the head immunity concept. You are talking about head immunity concept. This concept was built by shepherds, because when sheep were getting smallpox, they were taking the liquid from the diseased sheep and injecting with plant liquids into healthy animals and creating a disease among them, and saved all the healthy animals from disease. And this paper was published by the greatest global traditional medicine journal coming from China.
Okay. Do you have a final word, Professor? I'm going to
final word is thank you very much. I can see a lot of faces all over, and let us meet on this Zoom several times. I will come. I will listen young people's speeches, discussions, and let us put our minds together to create not only Dalit lives, Shudra lives also matter, and Dalit Shudras, women join hands to defeat Brahmanism forever.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Ilaiah. maybe I'll call Shepherd. You
No,
like
not
Shepherd?
Ilaiah.
Ilaiah, okay. Shepherd is good. Professor Shepherd, we have come to the end of today's session, Caste Conversation. On behalf of Dalit Live Matter Nepal, I want to thank you everyone for your solidarity. I hope we all had something to take away from today's conversation. A special thanks to Professor Shepherd. Thank you very much for joining us. We are incredibly excited to connect with you and take the collaboration further. Thank you again. I'm also thankful to my friends and my friends, those who are supporting to organize this. Bridiga, Vikas, Luchana, Prakriti for making this possible. Friends, we are very much sorry for the chat box. Dear all, thank you for being part of our first episode on Caste Conversation. You can fill up the form in the site, or you can write us dalitlivematter@gmail.com. We are planning to have a session every week. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Now I'm signing off. Namaste. Stay safe wherever you are. Thank you, Professor. A special
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank you
see you
all.
soon.